I never thought I'd be the guy to find out my wife's been cheating on me. But here I am, sitting in our living room staring at her phone, feeling like my world just got crushed. We've been married for 5 years, and honestly I thought we had a pretty normal, if not perfect, life. She'd always be a bit bitchy, yeah, but I chalked it up to her being stressed or just her personality. Her name's Jessica, fiery, sharp-tongued, and always quick to dismiss my concerns. I knew she was a little manipulative sometimes, but I never thought she'd cheat on me. Not like this. It all started about a month ago. I noticed she was acting distant, more irritable with me, snapping over little things. She'd brush off my questions, tell me I was overreacting, or say she had a lot on her plate at work. She'd go out with her friends more often, claiming it was girls' nights or just a few drinks, but she'd come home late and her stories didn't add up. I'd find her phone lying face down on the kitchen counter, or sometimes she'd leave it behind in the bathroom when she ran out. I caught her in little lies, but I didn't want to push too hard. I figured everyone's got secrets, right? Maybe I was just paranoid. Then about 2 weeks ago, she started canceling plans with me at the last minute, saying she had a lot of work or urgent meetings. She'd get super defensive if I asked questions, and her texts became more guarded. I noticed she was deleting messages, hiding her screen when I walked into the room. I thought maybe she was just tired of me or maybe she was cheating, but I didn't have proof. Just gut feelings and a few suspicious signs. Still, I wanted to believe in her, in us. But today, all that changed. I was rummaging through her purse. I know I probably shouldn't have, but I was just curious. And I found her phone lying on the table, unlocked. I saw recent messages with a number I didn't recognize. It was her boss, Mark. Their texts were flirty, not outright explicit, but enough to make my stomach turn. "Can't wait to see you tonight," she wrote once. Mark responded with "me too," and some other things that made me realize this wasn't just innocent work chatter. It was something more. I froze. My hands trembled. I scrolled through more messages, pictures she'd sent, little flirtatious emojis. Then I saw a picture of her with Mark, taken at some hotel. Her in a little black dress, him in a suit, both smiling way too intimately. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe she'd lie to my face, cheat behind my back, and even keep proof of it in her own phone. I'd always trusted her, and now everything felt like a lie. I know I should confront her, but I don't even know where to start. How do you process something like this? How do you face the woman you loved, knowing she's been screwing her boss while I was away on a work trip? It all happened so fast, but I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. This was the end of the line for us. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but my mind was racing 1,000 miles per hour. The evidence was right there in her phone: hotel receipts, messages, photos. It was like a punch to the stomach every time I looked at it. I'd always thought Jessica was a little high maintenance, a little bitchy, but I never thought she'd actually do something like this. Meeting her boss at our vacation house while I was away, that was next level betrayal. I felt sick, angry, hurt, all at once. I spent the next hour pacing around the living room trying to think clearly. Should I just confront her? Should I wait until she gets home, or should I call her now? Honestly, I felt like I was losing my mind. I kept telling myself she'd deny it, spin some bullshit story, but the evidence was irrefutable. I mean, how do you come back from something like this? I knew I couldn't just keep pretending everything was okay. My stomach clenched every time I thought about her lying to my face, about the nights she was sneaking around just to meet Mark. The thought of her lying while I was at work, oblivious to the fact that she was playing me for a fool, made me want to scream. Finally, I decided I couldn't wait anymore. I grabbed my phone and called her. Her tone was irritated when she answered, like I was bothering her during some important girls' night. I asked her where she'd been last night, and she told me she stayed late at work. I kept my voice steady, asked her if she'd been with anyone else. That's when she got defensive, started throwing those typical bullshit lines. "You're crazy. You're overthinking. It's just work stuff, nothing more." But I cut her off. I told her I knew she was lying about Mark, about the hotel receipts. That silence on the other end was deafening. Her reaction was priceless. She tried to deny everything, then got angry that I'd invaded her privacy. She accused me of being insecure, jealous, and said I was crazy for even thinking she'd cheat on me. I was boiling inside, but I managed to keep my cool. I told her I'd seen everything, the messages, the photos, that she'd been caught red-handed, that I wasn't going to play this game anymore. I told her I needed to see her face to face to get some answers. The line went dead after that, and I was left sitting there, feeling like I'd just been hit by a train. I couldn't sleep after that. The betrayal, the lies, everything just hit me like a ton of bricks. How had I missed this? How did I not see it coming? I kept replaying the moments, the little signs I brushed off, the times she was dismissive or overly defensive. I wondered if she ever really loved me, or if I was just an ATM for her, a convenient husband she could keep around while she played her games. Honestly, I felt numb. I wanted to yell, cry, break something, but mostly I just felt betrayed, broken inside. I used to think I was a good husband, that I loved her enough to overlook her bitchy attitude, but now I see I was just a fool. I decided I had to plan my next move carefully. I needed to confront her face to face, get some clarity, but part of me wanted to just walk out, to leave everything behind and forget I ever knew her. I mean, how do you go on knowing your wife has been sneaking off to meet her boss for God knows how long? The trust is shattered and I don't think it can be fixed. Still, I wanted to hear her lie to my face, wanted to see her squirm. I guess I'm not done yet. I need to hear her version, even if I already know what it's going to be. Bullshit, lies, more excuses. But that doesn't mean I'll accept it. Not anymore. Late that night, after everything I'd seen and the adrenaline crash that followed, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept flashing back to the photos, the hotel receipts, her smug little face in that picture with Mark. Every detail felt like a punch, and I kept asking myself how the hell I missed all of this. When did our marriage turn into this? How did her bitchy, manipulative attitude turn into something so fucking cold and deceptive? I'd always known she could be mean, but I never thought she'd do something like this, sneaking around, lying, betraying everything we supposedly stood for. I knew I couldn't just let this go. I had to confront her. I was angry, yes, but also a little hurt. I felt like a fool, like I'd built a life around a lie. I had worked hard, provided for her, trusted her, and now I found out she'd been playing me for months. My feelings were all mixed up: anger, sadness, disgust. I kept thinking about the nights she'd said she was working late and I'd see her out with her friends. She always had some excuse, some story, and I bought it because I wanted to believe in us. But now I knew better. So I decided I'd wait until she got home, then I'd lay everything out. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some dumb husband who couldn't see what was going on. I wanted her to look me in the eyes and lie again if she dared. I also knew I needed a plan. I didn't want to just blow up everything without thinking. I figured I had to be smart about this, catch her in the act if I could, or at least get her to admit what she'd been doing. I couldn't just accuse her blindly without any proof, but I already had enough to make her uncomfortable. Around 11 p.m., I heard her keys in the door. My heart pounded. She looked exhausted, but there was a flicker in her eyes, like she knew she was about to face something. I didn't say anything. At first, I just watched her, waiting to see if she'd slip up. She dropped her purse on the table, looked around nervously, and tried to act normal. That's when I decided to play it cool. "Hey," I said casually, trying to sound calm but firm. "How was your night?" She rolled her eyes, gave a resigned sigh, and then said, "It was fine. Same old bullshit at work. Why do you care?" I took a deep breath. "Look, Jessica, I know you've been lying to me. I know about Mark, about the hotel receipts, about the nights you've been sneaking out. I saw everything." Her face froze for a second, then she got defensive. "Oh, so now you're accusing me of cheating? That's just great. You're imagining things as usual." I shook my head slowly. "No, I'm not imagining anything. I found your messages, your pictures. Everything points to one thing. This isn't just some work thing. You've been having an affair with your boss. How long has this been going on?" Her eyes narrowed and she started to get bitchy quick. "You're out of your mind. You're just jealous because you're never around. Mark's just a friend. You're imagining things like always. You're insecure. That's why you're accusing me of this bullshit." I couldn't hold back anymore. "Stop lying. I saw it all. The hotel receipts, the photos. Don't even try to deny it, Jessica. I'm done with your bullshit. I can't believe I spent years trusting you and now I find out you've been screwing your boss behind my back. How long has this been going on? Months? More?" She snapped. Her voice rose, dripping with venom. You think I owe you an explanation. You're just some pathetic husband who can't satisfy his wife anymore. Mark's the one who's actually good at sex, not you. Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have looked elsewhere. But no, you're too busy working your meaningless job to notice my needs. I don't have to explain myself to you. That was the final straw. My blood was boiling. I felt a mixture of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak all at once. I wanted to lash out, scream at her, tell her how much I hated her for what she'd done. But I also knew I had to keep my composure. I looked her in the eyes and said, if you think I'm just going to accept this, think again. I want you out of my house. I want you to pack your shit and never come back. I'm done. She looked stunned for a second, then her bitchy mask slipped back into place. Fine. Do whatever you want. You're pathetic anyway. I don't need you. Mark's the real man I want. He treats me like I deserve. Not some stupid, insecure husband who's too afraid to face the truth. As she stormed off to pack her bags, I felt nothing but cold emptiness. I'd been betrayed so deeply that I couldn't even feel anger anymore, just a numb despair. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, was gone. And at that moment I realized my life was never going to be the same again. The next morning I woke up feeling like hell. I couldn't sleep after that fight. My mind kept replaying everything. The betrayal, her words, her sneering face as she packed her bags. I was angry at myself for trusting her so blindly, even though deep down I knew I'd been naive. How had I missed all the signs? The late nights, the secretive texts, her dismissive attitude whenever I brought up her behavior. It all felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I stayed in bed for a while, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what to do next. Part of me wanted to call her, to beg her to stay and somehow fix this, but I knew better. You don't fix something this broken with words. It's over. She was done with me, and honestly, I was done with her. The trust was shattered beyond repair. I kept thinking about how she called me boring, how she said Mark was better at sex. That really stung more than I cared to admit. I'd always thought I was decent in bed, but apparently that wasn't enough for her. When she finally came downstairs with a suitcase, she looked at me with that same bitchy smirk she always wore when she thought she was winning. I'm leaving, she said flatly, like she was just stating a fact. Don't bother trying to stop me. Mark, waiting at his place. He's got a new job opportunity for me, and I'm not missing out on that. You're too clueless to see what's good for you anyway. Her words cut like knives. The audacity, the way she dismissed everything we had like it was nothing. I didn't even bother responding. I just sat there watching her pack her stuff, feeling a strange mixture of relief and deep sadness. Part of me wanted to scream at her, tell her how much she'd hurt me, but what was the point? She'd already made her choice. I wanted her to leave, to get out of my life for good. I didn't want to see her face again. I'd never imagined I'd be in this position, rejected, betrayed, broken. It felt like my heart had been torn apart and no amount of words could fix it. As she walked out the door, she threw me a parting shot. You'll regret losing me, she said with a sneer. Mark's better in bed and he knows what he wants. You're just a boring, insecure idiot. I didn't bother to reply. I just watched her get into that damn car and drive away. For a moment I sat there in silence, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on me. That's when it hit me. I had to start picking up the pieces. I wasn't going to beg her to stay or try to make sense of her bullshit anymore. I knew I deserved better than this, better than a wife who lied, cheated, and looked at me like I was nothing. The pain was real, but so was the clarity. I needed to focus on myself now. I'd been a fool to trust her blindly, but that was over. I was finally waking up to what was true. The marriage was dead, and I had to accept that. Moving on was the only option left. I owed myself that much. For days after she left, I felt numb. It was like walking around in a fog, knowing everything had changed but not quite processing it. I kept getting flashes of her sneering face, the photos, the receipts, everything that proved she'd lied to me for months. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it, how I'd been so blind to her games. She was sharp, manipulative, and totally ruthless when it came to hiding her tracks. I realized I'd been so blinded by the idea of our life together that I ignored all the warning signs. I spent a lot of time alone trying to piece my mind back together. I'd been married to her for 5 years, and now it felt like I was starting from scratch. I couldn't believe I'd let myself get so blindsided, but I also knew I had to accept what was gone. The trust, the future I'd envisioned, everything was shattered. I'd always prided myself on being a good man, a loyal husband, but Jessica had shown me that sometimes people are just good at hiding who they really are. The hardest part was dealing with the emotional fallout, the sheer betrayal. I'd always loved her, even with all her bitchy attitude and manipulative ways. But now I felt nothing but anger, not just at her but at myself for being so gullible. I wondered if I'd ever feel normal again, if I'd ever be able to trust someone like that again. The pain was real, but I knew deep down that I deserved better. I didn't want to be that guy who gets played for a fool forever. I decided I needed to cut ties completely. No more calls, no texts. I changed my phone number, blocked her on social media, and told my friends I didn't want to talk about her anymore. I also started going to the gym and focusing on my work. I knew I had to rebuild myself piece by piece. The betrayal was a blow, but I was determined not to let it define me. I owed it to myself to move on, to find peace again, even if it meant starting completely over. One night I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the wall, and I realized something. I'd been so busy blaming her, blaming the world, that I hadn't even considered what I learned from all this. I learned that I needed to trust my instincts more. That no matter how much you want to believe in someone, sometimes the truth is right in front of you if you're willing to see it. I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived discovering her cheating, and now I had to rebuild my life without her. It's not easy, but I know I can do it. I have to do it. For myself. Months went by, and slowly I started to feel like myself again. It wasn't easy, there were days when the pain threatened to swallow me whole, days when I'd wake up feeling empty and hollow, remembering all she'd done. But each day I forced myself to move forward. I threw myself into my work, started picking up new hobbies, and spent more time with friends who actually cared about me. The anger gradually transformed into a kind of quiet resolve. I wasn't going to let her betrayal ruin me. I learned a lot from this whole ordeal, even if it's hard to admit. Looking back, I realized that I should have seen the signs, but mostly I see that I was blind because I loved her too much. Love can make you ignore the ugly, the obvious faults, and sometimes even the dangerous lies. But now I know better. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair, at least in a way that truly works. I can forgive, but I can't forget, and I won't let myself be fooled again. The experience has made me more cautious, more aware of the red flags, and more confident in my own judgment. I don't regret the pain I went through because I understand it now. It was a hard lesson, yes, but it's also a lesson that set me free. I finally see my worth, and I refuse to be anyone's fool again. Jessica's betrayal was a brutal wake-up call, but I've come out of it stronger. I've learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply living your life well, without someone who doesn't value you. So, for anyone out there going through something similar, here's what I've learned. Trust your gut, pay attention to the signs, and don't be afraid to walk away from what's toxic. Because in the end, your happiness and self-respect matter more than any relationship that's built on lies. I may have lost a wife, but I gained clarity and a fresh start. And that's something no one can ever take away from me.